Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Just to outline Council's governance rules, and this is about keeping the Council meetings as a safe place for everyone. During the Council meeting, members of the public cannot address the meeting outside of public question time, must not interject or act offensively, must remain seated, must switch their mobile phones to mute, must not operate any recording devices, audio and or visual without obtaining consent from the Chief Executive Officer at least 3 days prior to the Council meeting, and can display placards or posters provided they're not offensive, do not obstruct entrances and exits to the chamber or impede any view or person. The Chair, as in the Mayor, can direct any member of the public to stop interjecting or acting offensively. If that behaviour continues, the Chair can ask an authorised officer or a member of the Victoria Police to remove members of the public from the chamber. Thank you.
Well, good evening everyone, and welcome to another Ordinary Council meeting for Monday the 28th of August 2023. Item 1, meeting opening. Item 1.1, attendance. Ms Weatherall, are there any apologies for this evening?
Yes, Mayor. We have apologies from Councillor Angela Long and Councillor Bob Milkovich.
Thank you. Item 1.2, acknowledgement of traditional custodians of the land. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land, the Bunurong people, and pay respect to their elders past and present. We recognise and respect their continuing connections to climate, culture, country and waters, and we also pay our respect and acknowledge all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples and their elders present here today in acknowledging their journey. Item 1.3, offering of prayer, reflection or affirmation. As part of Council's commitment to recognising the cultural and spiritual diversity of our community, the prayer, reflection or affirmation this evening will be offered by Ursula Uruma from the Sri Sathya Sai organisation, a member of the Greater Dandenong Interfaith Network. Can I please ask everyone to stand? Thank you, Ms Aruma. Item 1.4, confirmation of minutes of previous meeting.
Happy to move that.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Councillor Formoso and seconded by Councillor Trum. Are there any questions, councillors? Is there any opposition? As there's no opposition, I declare this item carried. Item 1.5, disclosures of interest. Are there any disclosures of interest, Ms Weatherall?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Councillor Tim Dark has declared an item of interest, a conflict of interest in regards to item 4.1.1, the extension of recyclable materials.
Thank you, Ms Weatherall. Item 2, Officers' Reports Part 1, 2.1, Documents for Sealing, 2.1.1, Documents for Sealing. Moved by Councillor Garrard, seconded by Councillor Lim. Are there any questions, councillors? Is there any opposition? As there's no opposition, I declare this item carried. Councillor Garrard.
Madam Mayor, could I just pass on my congratulations to Danny Trimble from Corporate Services for 10 years of service, of much appreciated service to the City of Greater Dandenong.
Thank you, Councillor Garrard. Councillor Tan, you wanted to, I think we all perhaps second that. Congratulations on 10 years to Ms Trimble. Item 2.2, documents for tabling. 2.2.1, documents for tabling. Moved by Councillor Mehmeti, seconded by Councillor Lim. Are there any questions, councillors? Is there any opposition? As there's no opposition, I declare this item carried. Item 2.2.2, petitions and joint letters. Moved by Councillor Mehmedi, seconded by Councillor Tan. Are there any questions, councillors?
Yes, Miss, if I could ask a question.
Yes, Deputy Mayor, Councillor Formosa.
Just give me 1 moment. Just wondering if we have made contact with one of the residents that offered to take members of the community out with them when they go to events, which I thought was really quite touching. I wish more of our community members would do that. So do we know if that person's been contacted and if
We're going ahead with that.
Mayor, if it hasn't already happened, it will be in the process of happening, so thank you.
Thank you, Ms Weatherall.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, Councillor Formoso. Is there any opposition to that? No, as there's no opposition, I declare this motion carried. Councillor Garrard, you'd like to speak
Madam
to
Mayor,
this
just
item?
in relation to the continuing petition from the Progress Street Group,
Yes.
can we have an update on the meetings that were sought on their behalf by local MPs?
Of course. So I'll put that question to Mr Keasley, please.
Thank you, Councillor. And through you, Mayor, I can advise that there is a meeting scheduled for the 1st of September with the local member, but also the Parliamentary Secretary for Level Crossings, and that will involve the Mayor, I think the Ward Councillor and Mr Bosman as an Acting CEO, and a number of other staff as well. So we would be hopeful to be able to then give an update on the Monday night on terms of how that went.
Thank you.
No problem. Okay. Item 2.3, statutory planning applications. 2.3.1, town planning application number 11 to 53, Waterview Close, Dandenong South, planning application number PLA 23/0025.
I'll move that.
Moved by Councillor Dark and seconded by Councillor Mehmedi. Are there any questions, councillors?
Do I have a question?
Yes, Councillor Tan.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a question to the relevant officer, just regarding to the parking on this planning, saying we have 650 patrons, but there's only a total of 92 parking spots. So is that enough for 650 people?
Thank you, Councillor Tan. Mr Bosman, please.
Madam Mayor, through yourself, Councillor, the existing parking that is being provided is not changed. The amount of parking provided remains the same that was approved under the previous permit. The application cannot and does not revisit the matter of parking. It only deals with the extension of the red line area. The number of patrons, etc., that are restricted on the site remain the same. So the effect of the previously approved permit in respect of the requirement for parking remains the same as well. There's no change to the parking, there's no change to the patron numbers, the only change is to the extent of the red line area. So therefore the parking numbers are unaffected. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Bosman. Any further questions, Councillor? Any other questions, councillors? Is there any opposition? As there's no opposition, I declare this item carried.
Mayor.
Yes, Councillor Dark.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, I just wish to congratulate, I suppose, the applicant on receiving the amended permit regarding their facility. For those that don't know, the Limon Activity Centre or building in Dandenong South is probably one of the most regionally known facilities for entertainment in the area. It has grown since I was first elected to council, from being the initial go-kart track to now incorporating VR, laser tag, and they're growing again with the rise now of the indoor mini golf centre as well. To have the point where they're actually expanding and looking at new ways that they can, I suppose, build their business, make it more of a point of interest for people to go and see, and then subsequently from there employ local people as well, is very exciting. So I just want to congratulate them on the growth that they've experienced.
Thank you, Councillor Dark. Item 2.3.2, planning decisions issued by Planning Minister's Delegate, July 2023. Moved by Councillor Lim, seconded by Councillor Garrard. Are there any questions, councillors? Is there any opposition? As there's no opposition, I declare...
Question.
Oh, yes.
I've been
Yes,
sitting
Councillor.
around this table for many years, and I just wonder sometimes when there's nothing to be noted, does it still have to come to a council meeting?
Yes, I'll put that
Do we
to
just move
Mr.
nothing?
Mr. Bosman, if you like to respond.
Madam Mayor, I suppose in some extent that's a governance question, but I do know, Councillor, that this question has been raised before, and even though there are no decisions, the fact that there are no decisions is the report back to Council. It's not as though only when there are particular permits issued, etc., where there have been no permits applied for or decided upon by the Minister, that is the report that officers put to Council, and what you're doing is that you're noting that report. Even if there has been no activity, you're noting that there's been no activity. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you for that clarification, Mr.
Thank you
Bosman.
for that clarification.
Thank you, Councillor Mahdi. So I believe that item is carried as there was no opposition. Item 2.3.3, Planning Delegated Decisions issued July 2023. Moved by Councillor Mahdi, seconded by Councillor Tan. Are there any questions, councillors? Is there any opposition? As there's no opposition, I declare this item carried. Item 3, question time public. Ms Weatherall.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And our first question this evening is from Tina Kongs of Dandenong concerning Dandenong Community Hub. If Tina would like to come up to the microphone, please.
Thank you, Tina.
My question is, when will the co-design sessions to finalise the Dandenong Community Hub concept design with the community be held?
Thank you, Tina. I'll put that question to Mr Kearsley, please.
Thank you, Tina. Thank you for your question. What I can advise is that we're very fortunate that the architects Crocs and Ramsey were reappointed by Council at the last Council meeting.
Yep.
So since that time we've been engaging with them on contractual matters, but one of the important things is to talk to them about the co-design phase of the project, what that means, how many meetings that might mean, etc. So I'm afraid I can't give you too much detail tonight, but I'd be hoping that within the coming weeks we would be in a position where we would be in a position to invite all of the residents who participated in the process in to meet with the architect to go through that co-design process. So probably another 2 weeks and we'll be able to give you that.
Wonderful, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr Kearsley, and thank you, Tina. Ms Weatherall, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And our next question is from Melinda Puglisi of Dandenong concerning Dandenong Community Hub co-design. It's great the Council are proceeding with co-design to finalise the concept design for the Dandenong Community Hub. A, how will the co-design process work? B, when will the co-design process start? And C, how many people will be part of the co-design resident group and how many sessions will there be between residents and the architect? Can I ask Mr Kearsley to respond, please?
Thank you. Mr Kearsley, please.
Thank you, and thank you, Melinda, for the question. Same as really the answer for Tina with regards to the process is that we're hopeful of once we've engaged the architects in contractual matters that we'll then get straight into working through a project plan, identifying timing for the co-design process, when it'll start, but also those people who will be invited to it. So as I said before, I'd be hopeful that within a matter of weeks we would be in a position to advise. Council resolution is that we have that co-design process completed by the end of October, so we're very comfortable that we would have the time to do that from 2 weeks onwards. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Kearsley. Ms Weatherall.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And our next question is from Philip Lamaro of Dandenong concerning the pedestrian crossing on Allen Street, Dandenong. I asked a public question last year about a pedestrian crossing on Allen Street, Dandenong that runs along the Dandenong Creek. I was advised this would be done in the 23-24 term. I'd like to know if Council will abide to their promise of installing the pedestrian crossing in this financial year. If not, why are they breaking their promise? And if they are, what date is the ETA of installation of the crossing? Mr Kearsley, would you like to respond, please?
Thank you. Mr Kearsley, please.
Thank you, and thank you, Mr Lamaro, for the question. I can advise that the pedestrian crossing has been identified and prioritised as he has identified. within the Active Transport Infrastructure Program for the Dandenong Creek Trail on the north side of Allen Street, bridge over the creek. The Active Transport Infrastructure Program is responsible for prioritising and delivering projects across the entire municipality. As per our previous response when this was raised last year, we are still unable, unfortunately, to provide a timeframe for when this crossing will be delivered, as it is subject to program budget availability and competes for priority with other locations at every budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Kearsley. Ms Weatherall.
Thank you. And our next question is from Mr Lamaro of Dandenong concerning dump trolleys in Dandenong. When walking around Greater Dandenong, you notice so many dump supermarket trolleys. I'd like to ask the following. Council introduced laws 5 years ago on supermarket trolleys and the issue, so I would like to ask. A, as Council's current system is not decreasing the amount of shopping trolleys dumped throughout the area, what does Council plan to do to improve the situation? B, a few non-mainstream supermarkets that have over 20 trolleys but do not use the coin locking service, so how often does Council inspect this law is being followed? And C, as the Dandenong market is Council-owned, what is its legal requirements with having stolen illegal supermarket trolleys being used on site by shop owners and customers? Can I ask our Director, City Planning, Design and Amenity, Mr Bosman, to respond?
Thank you. Mr Bosman, please.
Madam Mayor, thank you through yourself to Mr Lamaro. Last year, the Council initiated an educational program designed to work in conjunction with existing enforcement activities combating abandoned shopping trolleys within the municipality. The program was designed to strengthen relationships with the major retailers, supermarkets and shopping complexes with the view of reducing instances of trolleys abandoned within the municipality. The program provided a multifaceted approach and further highlighted the responsibilities of the retailer to, and I shall mention that the matters that we took to them, to limit the opportunity for abandoned trolleys, in other words, looking at the technology, to ensure abandoned trolleys are collected within minimum times, a collection strategy, providing community education programs for their customers, backing that up with education, because enforcement without education is always likely to fail. And since the program was introduced, Council has recorded a dramatic drop in the instances of abandoned trolleys across the municipality through proactive activities. It's continuing to work with the major retailers such as Coles and Woolworths. So while it might not appear to be, our numbers, in fact our stats, show that the number of trolleys abandoned and collected within the municipality has reduced. Given that the large supermarkets, Coles and Woolworths, are in fact the owners of the majority of them, that is where our biggest effort has gone into. But that does not mean we are not going to be engaging and are already engaging with some of the smaller ones. Council continues to work proactively with these retailers and others in the municipality to ensure an educational, proactive and technological approach is taken to all advances in shopping trolley management. Council understands the issue of abandoned shopping trolleys as a complex one that is still far from perfect, but believes a program comprising of education, positive relationships and enforcement will continue to gain positive ground on the issue. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Bosman. Ms Weatherall.
Thank you, Mayor. And then the last question from Mr Lamaro tonight. Clough Street Car Park tree planting, Dandenong. I've asked in the last two previous council meetings about Dandenong Car Park on Clough Street and Palm Plaza. Council have owned this area for over 20 years and as of today's date, no improvements have been done at the central Dandenong site. Last meeting, Council advised trees would be planted here. A, when will these trees be planted? B, how many trees does Council plan to plant on this site? And C, why in over 20 years has this Council-owned site with no plans or permits allocated to it have no landscaping or trees planted on it like other Council-owned car parks across the municipality? Can I ask Mr Kearsley to respond, please?
Thank you. Mr Kearsley, please.
Thank you, and thanks for Mr Lamaro for the question. Unfortunately, with the timing, a site meeting, I believe, has not yet been arranged as was indicated that it would be at the last council meeting, so I've asked my staff to prioritise that. With regards to the previous issues raised by Mr Lamaro in this question, they have previously been addressed. The Clough Street car park trees are identified as moderate planting difficulty and hence may not be planted for several years. More importantly, though, the car park is considered to be a future strategic development site, which has been the subject of feasibility work in the past. Well, what I can advise is that 10 trees are proposed along the Clough Street edge of the car park. I would be hopeful that within a matter of days, at least a site meeting will be booked in so that council officers can take you through the proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Kearsley. Ms Weatherall.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And our next question is from Emily Sloan of Dandenong concerning Yarraman Ward Community Consultation Noble Park. We're looking forward to the new part in Yarraman Ward at 218, I think she meant New Park, sorry, in Yarraman Ward at 218 Railway Parade Noble Park, and very grateful the trees have been maintained on the site whilst the previous building is being demolished. When is community consultation on the concept design going to commence, and will it include an after-hours drop-in session? I'd like an opportunity for residents who are interested in the space to be able to meet each other and discuss their ideas about this public resource for council officers. Can I ask Mr Bosman to respond, please?
Thank you. Mr Bosman, please.
Madam Mayor, thank you to yourself, to Emily Sloan. The consultation on the concept plan for the future park at 218 Railway Parade is currently anticipated to occur in November this year. With regard to drop-in sessions, they are generally not undertaken for pocket parks such as this one. However, officers are yet to develop the consultation plan for the site, and once this is completed, the full details of the consultation methods will be available prior to the consultation occurring. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Bosman. Ms Weatherall, are there any questions from last week to be tabled?
Yes, Madam Mayor, they're tabled here.
Thank you. Item 4, Officers' Reports, Part 2, 4.1, Contracts, 4.1.1, Contract Number 1213-204B, Receipt of Recyclables, Extension of Contract. Moved by Councillor Trull. Oh, yes, my apologies. Yes, Councillor Dark, you have...
Thank you, Mayor. I wish to declare a conflict of interest in this matter. The conflict of interest is indirect pecuniary interest, given that I am the Managing Director of an agency that currently has contracts with a subsidiary of Regroup.
Thank you, Councillor Dark. We will wait until Councillor Dark leaves the chambers. Okay, and moved by... So, do I have a mover for this item? Yeah. Moved by Councillor Riley, seconded by... Thank you, Councillor Tan, seconded by Councillor Tan. Are there any questions? Yes, Councillor Garrard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Could the relevant officer explain why we are extending a contract with a company formerly trading as Polytrade that was underpaid their workers by $2.2 million?
Thank you, Councillor Garrard. Mr Kearsley, please.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor, for a very important question with regards to the previous behaviour of the group referenced as Polytrade, which was the company that Council originally had this contract with. That contract was novated about a year ago across to a new company called Regroup, who are a national-based waste company. They purchased Polytrade outright. What I can advise is that with regards to the inappropriate matters that the previous Polytrade company undertook, this council stood firm with regards to any comments that were made with regards to the inappropriateness of how perhaps our residents were treated with regards to the operations of that particular operator. We have received correspondence from Regroup who have quite clearly indicated, and I'm happy to just take you through those, that those fines were imposed against entities related to Polytrade that were and are not part of the 2022 transaction where Regroup acquired the assets of Polytrade. Regroup is not associated with those companies and certainly not exposed to the fines. so the outcome does not have any impact on the viability of our business. They did go on to state that Regroup regularly undertakes visa checks and better off overall test, or known as boot assessments, to ensure that they pay all staff the correct amount. We are confident we have the necessary systems in place to ensure these historical issues will not arise in the future. So we feel comfortable with regards to this extension. It's a matter of 6 months, and what that does, it allows us to prepare tender documentation to invite a whole range of new parties to engage with us through that process for that service delivery. So we're very hopeful, of course, that Regroup plus a number of significant others will participate in that process, and that decision in terms of who is chosen is a council decision where it will be reported to council.
Thank you, Mr Keasley. Any further questions, councillors? Is there any opposition? As there's no opposition, I declare this item carried. Can we please call Councillor Dark back into the chambers? Thank you. Item 4.1.2, contract number 2223 to 44, event infrastructure and equipment hire services.
Be to move.
Moved by Councillor Dark, seconded by Councillor Tan. Are there any questions, councillors? Is there any opposition? As there's no opposition, I declare this item carried. Item 4.2 Other, 4.2.1, response to notice of motion number 26, Racism Not Welcome campaign. Moved by Councillor Garrard, seconded by Deputy Mayor Councillor Formoso. Are there any questions, councillors? Is there any opposition? As there's no opposition, I declare this item carried. Councillor Garrard, would you like to speak?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to thank my fellow councillors for supporting this important notice of motion, where we will have 40 signs placed around the city of Greater Dandenong. I think we should be clear, though, that these signs will not stop racism. These are not designed to stop racism. They will not stop the frequent microaggressions, insults, unfair treatments or physical threats that our residents experience on a frequent basis, either at work, shopping or at school. That racists will be racists, and that they will continue to trot out their well-honed tripe, that the colour of someone's skin determines the content of their character. That's what brings them joy, and that's what gives them some sense of power in their small lives. Rather, these signs are permanent declaration of allyship with every child and adult of colour, that we stand together upholding a standard of mutual respect and intolerance of all forms of racism.
Thank you, Councillor Garrard. Second those sentiments. Item 4.2.2, report on matters discussed at councillor briefing sessions and pre-council meetings.
Happy to move that, Mayor.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Councillor Formoso, seconded by Councillor Lim. Are there any questions, councillors? Is there any opposition? As there's no opposition, I declare this motion carried. Item 4.2.3, list of registered correspondence to Mayor and councillors. Moved by Councillor Chung, seconded, I have a seconder. Seconded by Councillor Mametti. Are there any questions, councillors? Is there any opposition? As there's no opposition, I declare this item carried. Item 5, notices of motion. 5.1, notice of motion number 32, ban on fossil fuel advertising. Moved by Councillor Garrard, seconded by... Do I have a seconder, councillors?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Deputy Mayor Councillor Formoso. Are there any questions, councillors? Is there any opposition?
Yeah, I'm in opposition, Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Dark. So Councillor Dark in opposition. All right, so Councillor Garrard, would you like to speak, please?
Yes, with pleasure. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, right now in Canada there are 6,000 fires, uncontrolled fires, that have burnt out 15 million hectares, and which is an area larger than Greece, and tens of thousands of people are running for their lives right now. We have extreme heat in the Middle East, which hit a heat index of 67 degrees Celsius. We have vanishing sea ice of up to 1 million square metres that has not reformed. We have ocean heat waves around the world where the sea is up to 30 degrees, causing devastation to fish stocks. We have penguin die-off. 10,000 emperor penguins did not make it this year because of melted sea ice and are now moving towards extinction. We have whole insurance companies pulling out of the whole state of California because the risk of fire and flood in that state are too great. We have a climate crisis, and there is absolute consensus amongst reputable scientists that the major cause, without any doubt, is the burning of fossil fuels. And therefore, it is important that we do not support what is generally known as greenwashing, where the fossil fuel sector, with all of their millions of dollars, seek out reputable organisations such as us to greenwash and make false statements such as natural gas, such as gas is a low emissions fossil fuel. We see companies like BP change their name to Beyond Petroleum, even though 96% of their income is from fossil fuels. We hear things like net zero, we hear things like carbon neutral from these companies, which is false and inaccurate. It is beholden on us to make sure that we do not become the witting partners in allowing these companies to greenwash using our good name. And that is what happened recently, where we were planting 2,500 trees and we had people turn up with badging from the fossil fuel sector. It is equivalent to Carlton United sponsoring an AA session. That is the equivalent. They are responsible for global warming, which is devastating our climate. And for that reason, it is important that we, as a responsible council, make the responsible decision to not allow them to use us for their purposes of greenwashing. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Garrard. The Deputy Mayor, Councillor Formoso, a seconder, would you like to speak?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'd like to thank Councillor Garrard for bringing this notice of motion to our chambers. Obviously, City of Greater Dandenong took a really strong hold on this when we declared a climate emergency in 2018, so this is only very fitting for what's happening in the environment right now and will continue to occur if we don't take a stance. So I thank you greatly for bringing this to our attention, and obviously something that we need to endorse. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Formoso. Councillor Dark, as in opposition, would you like to speak?
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, I rise to oppose this motion because I have some significant issues about the detriment that this can have to council's functions and operations as a whole. There is no question that there are clearly issues going on, and there is climate change occurring. It has been occurring for a very, very long time, and nothing that we do as a very small municipality on the world stage is going to make any difference with that whatsoever. The fact is that what Councillor Garrard consistently calls greenwashing is actually groups and supporting groups, companies that have significant involvement in our municipality through supplies, through contracts, through companies that they do a lot of work with, moving into a position where they're supporting companies, they're supporting community groups in their quest for planting, say for instance, more trees. Councillor Gardner was a big champion, I think, of the one child per tree policy, and it was all good singing Kumbaya until people from Chevron turned up who sponsored the event and put, I suppose, by no question, a considerable amount of money towards this project.
Madam Mayor, point of order.
Thank you, Councillor Garrard. What is your point of order?
Chevron did not sponsor that event, Madam Mayor. They were a partner of a partner. They were in no way sponsoring that event. We would have not accepted any sponsoring from them.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Garrard. I do declare that item a valid point of order, as I was aware that Chevron was a co-partner with, I believe, the Conservation Volunteers Australia. So, Councillor Dark, if you'd like to withdraw
Thank
that
you,
and maybe
Mayor.
restate it accurately.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll withdraw that. And I'll restate that they are a partner of the Conservation Volunteers Alliance, I think is a group that I've just heard from the Mayor. But the fact is that what we are looking at right now is a significant issue. There is no question at all that we are reliant upon what we have. We are a manufacturing industry hub, and a core part of our companies that pay the majority of our rates base are companies that are affiliated in one way, shape or another with the industry. The other part of it that seems to be coming up is that when we consistently work with partners and groups, and the community groups in our facilities work with them, sports clubs have sponsorship, we are talking about a significantly large industry. The natural gas industry, the petroleum industry, they are supporting many different things, from plastics. So then what do we do about the rollout of all plastics, I suppose, to supplying other parts of the chain that supplies a lot of things within the municipality. And we can't then go down the path of then basically going down saying, look, we're going to ban this and we're going to ban everything to do with fossil fuels industry, because it makes zero sense. It's impractical and it can't be implemented. The second part that I have a real issue with is that in the moment right now in the city of Great Dandenong, we have significant issues, massive issues. Over the weekend, I was sent by no less than 3 videos in the Keysborough South Ward of 2 gentlemen in a ute with no trade going around scouting a premises, subsequently entering a garage. Another one of an African male forcing his way into a house in Keysborough South Ward. There's been issues.
Point of order.
Councillor Dark, if you can be seated.
Point of order. Does Councillor Dark have proof that an African person, does he have proof that before he besmirches the ethnicity of a person, has it been certified that that was an African person before you go publicly?
Yeah. So, okay. So I will rule that as a valid point of order based on irrelevance. So perhaps, Councillor Dark, do you have evidence of that claim?
Thank you, Mayor. Absolutely, I do actually, and I have a resident from the Keysborough South Ward who's forwarded me videos that I'll happily provide to Councillor Garrard, because she's all happy to pick one side, but when her own residents get attacked, it's, oh no, my way, shape, form, an issue.
Councillor Dark, can I please...
Point of order.
Councillor Garrard, what is your point of order?
Mayor, I happen to have spent a large part of my weekend with my residents discussing these issues and the formation of a neighbourhood watch, because I am deeply in tune with what is happening in my residents, to the point where I've had police, and the council is well aware of the work that I have done in raising those issues. So it is incorrect and it is irrelevant.
So, Councillor Garrard,
so would he stop going down that path?
Councillor Garrard, thank you. Look, let's bring it back to the item at hand, which is the notice of motion about ban on fossil fuel advertising, not about crime or neighbourhood watch. Please, Councillor Dark, could you please return back to this particular item and,
yes, Mayor, I'll
remain relevant, please?
I will respond back to the item. I won't withdraw the remarks, though.
And you've got 1 minute.
Yes. So, I suppose circling back to where I was, the fact is that the ban on fossil fuel advertising, the ban on fossil fuel sponsorship is impractical. It is something that cannot be supported or brought into this municipality, because everything that we do in one way, shape or form is connected to the fossil fuel industry. Mayor, you yourself got a brand new car, I see down in the Merrill car park, that is powered by batteries, which comes from mining from the industry. So I think there needs to be proper thought through as to what this council is doing at the moment to ensure that we are supporting everything we possibly can. That needs to be met with all the notices of motion put forward. But also, not to go down to the point where we're going to cripple community groups who are reliant upon income to support their ventures.
Thank you, Councillor Dark. I might also note that it's not a new car, it's just a trial thing. So are there any other speakers, either for or against?
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Minniti.
Question to the relevant officer. Are you going to have enough time to bring this back to a council meeting by October 23, I think it is, so it's only a couple of months away. So this report, my understanding, is saying that you'll report back to council once you investigate and then bring... So we're not going to implement nothing today, even if this notice of motion is passed. All it is asking is council officers to go back and bring council another report on the pros and cons of this notice of motion.
Thank you, Councillor Mometti. Ms Gillies, please.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Mometti, for your question. It is actually a significant piece of work, and certainly the timing in October is very tight. What officers would be able to bring back is a report detailing what resources will be required to establish what the implications are and what the practical implementation could look like. It is a significant piece of work in terms of understanding all of the touch points per the notice of motion. So it will be... my understanding is the report is to come back detailing what resources we would need to actually do that piece of work. If I've misunderstood that and it's about doing the piece of work to come back in October, we would certainly need to reallocate existing resources and understand what they were to be.
Case, Madam Mayor, I'd like to ask the mover and seconder if they're prepared to leave it open, or do they want to put a date sometime next year?
Councillor Garrard, is the mover?
Madam Mayor, I'm happy to hear a reasonable argument from officers about the practicalities of when it comes back. I'm not wedded to the October date. Ideally, I'd like it back this year, but very happy for officers to make a valid argument about delaying that, and very happy for that change to be made post the passing of this motion.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Garrard. And Deputy Mayor, Councillor Formosa, are you happy with an relatively open date? Okay.
We'll just not put a date on it, and we'll just say as early as possible, given the opportunity for the officers to go and do their work, and because I think as a council we want to know all the pros and cons to this notice of motion. So I'm more than happy to support for council officers to go and do their work and then report back to council with the pros and cons of this notice of motion.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Mometti. Councillor Trung, did you want to say something as well?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I would like to ask the question because I think if every supermarket they sell it on their shelf, if something special price of reduce out 50% or something like that, they put on the catalog to drop in the letterbox of or household in then if we approve this one, we not allow them to do that, do we?
This is just asking for a report. So, yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Mayor,
yes, Councillor O'Reilly.
Mayor, just on that, my reading of the recommendation is the first 2 points are not asking for a report, but the third one is. So we are resolving on the first two. Okay. In that case,
clarification.
Okay, so Councillor Garrard, would you like to clarify?
Yeah, Madam Mayor, the points 1 and 2 will be reported in the form of a report, but if that's not clear, I'm happy for the wording to be changed to indicate that all 3 points are relevant to a report to be brought to council.
Okay, thank you. I hope that's clear for councillors.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Good. Okay. Seconders happy. Are there any other councillors that wish to speak either for or against? Yes, Councillor Tan.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a question to the relevant officer. Regarding to the resources, what will be the financial costs on bringing the report to the council? Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor
Through
Tan.
you, Madam Mayor, we'll bring that back when we bring the report, so all the details.
Thank you, Ms Weatherall. Okay, as Councillor Garrard, as mover, would you like to speak as well, Councillor O'Reilly? Sorry, I thought you had your hand up earlier. Pardon me.
That's fine, thank you, Mayor. I've listened to everything that's been said. I think this motion is potentially counterproductive to what Councillor Garrard mentioned at the start. So Councillor Garrard mentioned worldwide climate change, yet I think this motion to me, appears to be discouraging the funding of sustainable initiatives within this municipality. And like the example of the 1 tree per child, was it 1 child per tree? One or the other. That event where a partner of a partner had a fossil fuel company logo and all this sort of thing. You could then surmise that under this policy that not as many trees would be planted there. So while this motion would make the council appear to be morally good, in practice it is counterproductive to the funding of sustainable initiatives. I think to draw from what Councillor Dark said, Council has a lot more challenges ahead of it than this. And Councillor Mameti said, and Councillor Tan said, what resources are we going to dedicate to this? Officer resources, what will they be diverted from to write up a report on this? I think fossil fuel companies are not inherently evil. In fact, fossil fuel customers by association are not inherently evil because we're all customers. So let's get a bit more real and balanced and not see things as good versus evil. We should constructively engage with fossil fuel associated companies that want to fund sustainable initiatives. That's the sort of thing we wanted to achieve, rather than shut them out and shun them and just expect them to keep doing what they're doing now. So I think it's a waste of time for officers to write up these reports. I think there's so many more other things to deal with. The motion lacks clarity on what counts as indirect advertising, and I think this is we would just be being again moralistic, good versus evil, with the only practical impact being a reduction in funding for sustainable initiatives within our municipality. So I urge councillors to vote against this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Riley. Are there any speakers who haven't spoken who would like to speak to this item? No. Okay. Councillor Garrard, your right of reply, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you to Councillor O'Reilly for raising that point, because indeed it is not a moral issue. And I have never said good or evil. This is not an issue of morality. This is an issue of science. The science is clear that climate change is devastating our community. The intergovernmental report handed down this week showed that the cost to us, to agriculture, to tourism, to industry will be $40 billion. So if you are not concerned about the future of our children, if you are not concerned about the future of our planet, worry about the money, because the money is coming hard and fast. The whole state of California cannot insure their house. When you cannot insure your house is worthless. You are then tipped into poverty. That is where we are headed. That is the future that using fossil fuels at this rate is taking us. We have a climate emergency policy. We have a policy of climate emissions reduction. By 2025, as the Council, we have made a commitment to be emissions free, to have a net zero emissions profile, and that is not compatible with taking funds from the fossil fuel sector. There is no shortage of sponsors to sponsor sustainable projects. There are good organisations that are standing in line to do that. It is not an either or. Sustainable projects will continue. This is not a moral argument, it's a scientifically proven based argument, and we are committed to carbon reduction. This is entirely consistent with our policy. It's entirely consistent with our concern for this council, for our children, for our next generations. Our insurance policy overall has increased by 25% just due to climate change. It is ruining the environment, it is ruining the economy, and we are in for a hell of a lot more, and we're in for a hell of a difficult summer in terms of heat waves, in terms of marine heat waves, in terms of agricultural losses, in terms of losses to industry, in terms of loss of life. That's where we're at. That's the reality we are facing. And any councillor that does not support this, for a report to come back, cannot be serious about the policies we've put in place around dealing with the climate emergency.
Thank you, Councillor Garrard. So we will now take it to a vote. All those in favour of the motion, please raise your hand. Councillor Garrard, Deputy Mayor Councillor Formoso, Councillor Mehmeti, Councillor Lim and Mayor Eden Foster. All those against, please raise your hand. Councillor O'Reilly, Councillor Trung, Councillor Dark and Councillor Tan is abstention. That is 5, 4 and 3 against and 1 abstained. I declare the item carried. Item 6, reports from councillors, delegated members and councillor questions. I can't remember which way I started which way Deputy Mayor started last time. All right. Okay. Councillor Dark, we might start with you.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, my first question is with regards to the Wokta Reserve Playground. I note from the relevant director I did get a reply this afternoon, but I actually at the same time had the resident follow up with an update regarding the Wokta Reserve Playground. Could we please get a confirmed date of when the fence will be removed and when I suppose it will be open to everyone to use? And 2, what is being planned, I suppose, around the opening of it as well?
Thank you. Mr Kearsley, please.
Thank you, Councillor. Unfortunately, I'm not able to provide dates with regards to when the fencing. I did give you a reply today that we would hope that it would be down in the next week or so. That's subject to discussions with the contractor. In terms of an event, in terms of the opening, that's something that we will liaise with the Mayor's office in terms of timing. And if we did receive any state support, which again I'm unaware of, then we would need to coordinate a time with relevant ministers and or local members. So I'll take half of that on notice, but I'll hopefully be able to provide some more dates later this week.
Thank you, Mr Kearsley. Councillor Dark.
Thank you, Mayor. My next question, I've received an email and a phone call from I believe the secretary of the FC Noble Hurricane Soccer Club, who currently play at Harold Road in Noble Park. The FC Noble Hurricanes are a soccer club that started off the back of one of the teachers, Mr Sanakis, who teaches at a school on Princess Highway, and it was a way to get disadvantaged youth who couldn't afford to pay for soccer fees and things into playing soccer, and actually getting them out and about and being a lot more fit, participating in the community, whilst without having those sort of barriers of the costs involved being waived. The question I have is that they've wrote to myself and I believe several other councils as well around substantial growth pains that they're having given the uptake of sport that they're currently experiencing with the rise of females and coming into the sport as well as a lot of other groups as well. They've asked whether there was a potential to have a conversation with the relevant officers regarding the allocation of the grounds, how potentially they could be supported given that the middle of the pitch has a very hard cricket pitch, and what other options there are available to them if the relevant officer.
Thank you, Councillor. Ms Gillies, please.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Thank you very much, Councillor Dark. I'd really appreciate it if you could send me through the specific information. We'll absolutely make contact and see how we can support the club.
Thank you, Ms Gillies. Councillor Dark.
Thank you, Mayor. My next question is to the Director of Planning, Design and Amenity. It has to do with the surrounding streets of Mills Road, Wayne Court, Sinclair Road and industrial areas there. There has been for quite some time a big spike of dumped unregistered cars that have got bits and pieces falling off. There's mirrors on the ground, glass on the ground. And I know that several cars have been canaried over a few times, but it seems to be a persistent issue that a car gets canaried, then subsequently gets pushed or moved into a private lot, then a month later the canary gets peeled off and the car's back on the street again. It is really, really dirty at the moment. There's a lot of cars there that are most definitely unregistered and definitely unroadworthy. If we could please, I don't know what I suppose the best course of action is, but whether this could be taken on notice and work through what options we've got.
Thank you, Councillor. Mr Bosman, please.
Madam Mayor, thank you. Councillor, I've got the details. You've mentioned the streets. We'll program it in. As you know, and as I've reported back previously, we've got an active Clear Streets program. The task is enormous across the municipality. And as you say, it's a bit of a cat and mouse game. You talk about canaries, but it's cat, mouse and canaries by the looks of it, because as soon as we clear up a street and we move on, that street goes back to being a beneficiary of dumped vehicles again. Happy to add this to the list of hotspots for the moment and have officers pay a bit more attention to it. We'll factor it in to our abandoned vehicles program. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Bosman. Councillor Dark.
Thank you, Mayor. That would be great if you could please keep me in the loop. My next question is to the Director of Engineering Business Major Projects. Regarding Perry Road, I'm aware that we've duplicated it and is in the process of happening at the moment with contracts awarded. But I do know up at the Eastlink Bridge, I'm not sure whether we have oversight over the Eastlink Bridge or Eastlink or the Department of Transport. There is substantial crocodile cracking that's going on at a pretty rapid pace. And whether we could potentially have the engineering team either look at that or refer that to the relevant authorities.
Thank you, Councillor. Mr Kearsley, please.
Thank you, Councillor. Through you, Mayor. Yes, if it's on the bridge, and there would be a point where council doesn't have control of the asset. If it's, we could certainly get our engineers out to have a look, and if there are issues, then it would be a matter for us to address directly with Eastlink. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Kearsley. Councillor Dark.
Thank you, Mayor. My final question for tonight is to the Director of Business Major Projects and Engineering. I just want to find out what programs are, and I believe from what I've heard, which actually wasn't aware, there is a new program being rolled out to small businesses, similar to the Ignite program, I suppose, in helping businesses thrive within the city of Greater Dandenong. And also there, I believe there's now a new officer who can be referred to, then they would then basically connect them with all of the other council services that's coming out. This is actually a really, really amazing strategy. I'm really actually excited for this because a lot of the complaints I have is that they don't know they need to go from one directory to another and it bounces around. Can we please have some information on what that is and how that program is being rolled out?
Thank you, Councillor. Mr Kearsley, please.
Thank you, Councillor, and through you, Mayor. Yes, we are doing another phase of the Ignite program, so that's an opportunity for new and upcoming businesses to go through a skills program where they could learn all about how to create the business, and we're getting a lot of interest from home-based businesses, of course, post-COVID. With regards to the other program, it's a Better Business program. It's run in conjunction with Mr Bosman's team in environmental health, planning and building. Essentially, it's what we call a concierge service where representatives from the Economic Development Department assist and manage and coordinate applications relating to either local laws or planning applications, which can be quite a confusing area for especially those with non-English speaking as their first language. So it has been a very successful program. Initially came out of the Department of Treasury and Finance with the Department of Business. We can certainly get you some information. It's also intended to provide staff with an opportunity to brief council at a CBS probably early next year, but in the interim we'll certainly get you some information on that.
Thank you, Mr Kearsley, and thank you, Councillor Dark. Councillor Lim.
Thank you, Mayor. Just last fortnight, on Tuesday, actually the week before last, I attend a very special dinner with the GP just regarding to a special update about our medical profession to inform everyone. Probably all of us should know about the vaccination for shingle, because we used to be target 70 years old plus, but nowadays can be 50 years old onward, and probably some countries probably going to maybe vaccinate to the young kid age 12 or 15 or 18 as well, because shingle can happen to a young age as well. And the other thing is We have a lot of issue in our country as well about meningococcal B or so many strands that if we aware of that, if you're concerned about the children, you can go to pharmacy or go to doctor to vaccinate our children, and also a lot of update regarding flu vaccination and COVID vaccination. Probably normally they invited in my pharmacy, or my pharmacist attended with the GP in the southeast. The next day I sort of got invited by Cambodian Overseas Student Association of Victoria, I mean all the university right across Victoria, to ask me to become a guest speaker just to talk about my background, my challenges I face, my determination, resilience, highlight of the lesson I learned, whatever, until now. It's a great success, and also a lot of question and answer, and they expect me to be their guest speaker in a very near future again. And after that, the Sunday, I have a special meeting. This one mainly to charity for Monash children and gala dinner, and also for Cambodia Vision, and also flower ceremony as well. And after that, on a Wednesday, I have attended with our CEO. We've called a special breakfast at Monash Heart Hospital, the best hospital in the world. This is my second time. The first time I grand opening with Premier Daniel Andrew, and I had a chance to wandering everywhere last time. I guarantee that this is the hospital, the best hospital in the world. That's I've been witness when I was employee there, but now it's just unbelievable, the facility. And also after that, the Saturday night, I attended my room charity dinner with our CEO as well, and also with Councillor Memeti, with Deputy Mayor Formoso, and also Deputy Mayor from City of Monash. And after that, on a Sunday, I had to organize my charity lunch at the Wat Butarangse with our special Councillor Jim Memeti. He represents our council. He gave a very good speech about our council support those charity, and also the most important, Honourable Claire O'Neill. She came to address about her passion about Springwell, that she used to be a councillor and also mayor and so on and so on. Now she ministers. She loves Springwell as well, and so many other distinguished like Monash Director, the CEO of KidSafe, Professor Shri Sang, and so on and so on. Thanks, that's all for me.
Thank you, Councillor Lim. Councillor Tan.
Thank you, Mayor. Just got a quick question tonight through you, Mayor. So the relevant officer, just regarding to the 51A Douglas Street, again, do we have any response from the Minister since our submission in May 2023? Because I did send out a letter plus the Mayor as well, so any correspondence at all from the Minister at this stage? Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Tan. Mr Bosman, please.
Madam Mayor, thank you to yourself. Councillor Tan, the situation is unchanged since the last council meeting. The officers received a response in which the state government explained the reasons as to why they felt it was appropriate to support or to approve or to recommend the approval of the permit. But as far as I know to date, the letter that went out to the Minister under the hand of the Mayor has still not been responded to. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Bosman. Councillor Tan.
Thank you. I know on the social media, so I've got heaps of residents doing the change of oil, so trying to save the river red gum at the moment. So if that's going to be impacting on the decision of protecting the tree, if you're going to get a lot of people to sign up for the petition, please.
Thank you, Councillor Tan. Mr Bosman.
Madam Mayor, again through yourself, Councillor Tan, those two river red gums that you're referring to, unfortunately, have already become the victim of the approved permit. Whether a groundswell of community petitioning will in any way change that. I doubt very much, as I had mentioned previously, that permit is now issued. That permit now belongs to the developer, and the process of amending that permit without the voluntary support and collaboration of the permit owner is very, 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 very unlikely. So while I'm not saying don't do it, and I'm not saying don't take that community the community petition to the minister. I'm saying the reality of it is the change to the permit is highly unlikely.
Thank you,
Madam.
Mr. Bosman. Councillor Tan.
Last question regarding that. Do we know when exactly the development will start? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Mr. Bosman, please.
Madam Mayor, thank you. Through yourself, Councillor Tan, no, we don't. We've had no indication as to when development is likely to start. In terms of the permit that was issued, the standard condition, I think, applies, which is that the development needs to commence within 2 years. There is a provision in the Planning and Environment Act to apply for an extension of that time, should they not be able to meet the 2-year start date. But as the permit stands at the moment, they would need to start within 2 years. But we've had no communication from the developer or from anybody with regard to the commencement of development on site.
Thank you, Mr. Bosman. Thank you, Councillor Tan. Councillor Mometti.
Thank you, Mayor. Firstly, I'd like to congratulate Dandenong City Football Club on becoming the premiers in NPL 2, which means that they now get promoted to NPL 1, which is the top tier of football in Victoria. So, Madam Mayor, if you can just write a letter to them and congratulate them. And it's really hard to get back up to NPL 1 once you fall down to NPL 2. So that'll bring back the local derby back to Dandenong. So it's great to see Dandenong City up where they should be in the top tier of football in the state of Victoria. Also, Madam Mayor, I attended the 30 years anniversary of Minaret College. The late Mr. Mohammed Hassan, who started the school back in Noble Park with 22 students. Currently today they have over 2,000 students. So this college, where it started in Greater Dandenong in Noble Park, their main campus in Springvale now, and they've got now 2 other campuses, one in Dufton, one in Officer, I think is a testament to the work that Mr. Hassan did over many, many years. If we can write a letter and congratulate the school, the board of the director is Ahmed Hassan, who is the son of the late Mohammed Hassan, and also to Mohammed Taksim, the executive principal, who continues to grow the school and the college. And they're just really, really hard-working people, committed to great education, and I always check up on their enter scores at the end of the year. They're really always up there in the 98s, 99s, and they're a school that's achieving a lot, and they do a great job in our community. So if we can send a letter of congratulations to them as well. I also attended the art exhibition, first art exhibition from the Afghan community, which is on for 1 week at Level 3 on Dandenong Plaza. So if anyone wants to go and have a look, and there's some really great art there, and I did tell them that hopefully next year, when the Afghan community starts these art exhibitions, that we'll be ready to house them at our new Dandenong Art Centre. So that'll be great to have our own art centre, state-of-the-art centre, and our multicultural communities, I'm sure, are going to make a lot of use in that. So if anyone wants to go and visit the Afghan art exhibition, it's on Level 3 at the Dandenong Plaza for 1 week. So also, Madam Mayor, I attended My Room on Saturday night, where there was over 1,500 people. It was a fundraiser. They do some fantastic work, which I wasn't really aware. I knew a little bit about them, but now I do know a lot more of what they do. And it's a charity organisation where 95% of the funds go to the charity. You don't hear much of that about other charities, where a very minimal amount of money goes to that charity. So it was good to attend that, learn more about what My Room does, and looking forward to supporting it again in the future, because I think it's a great charity to support. I also attended Cambodian Vision, which was held in Springvale. It's something that's been going on for many, many years. I think our local community has been supporting it for, I think, over 15 years. And as the Honourable Claire O'Neill said in her speech, blindness in Cambodia is like a death sentence. Once you're blind, the support that you'll get is very minimal from the government, and you tend to not live much longer after that happens. So this money that's raised within our community, mainly in Springvale, but also I understand they have charity fundraisers in Sydney and other parts of Australia, but I know that Springvale is one of the biggest locations where they do raise those funds and help many people to protect and not losing their vision. So it was great to be there and to hear some of the speakers, like professors and that, talk about the work that they do there to help people in Cambodia. Was great to be part of. Also, Madam Mayor, we actually had the Dandenong Community Crime Night, which was inviting the community to speak to our local police. We had many people in our community attend. I know it's always difficult having them in winter. You might sometimes get a few people and sometimes you get a lot, but I think we had a decent crowd in. I'd like to thank the community that came to the meeting, and also VicPol, who has been having these around our municipality, so thank you to them. Madam Mayor, I also wanted to say that I visited Progress Street over the last 2 weeks to have a look at what's happening there. I'm not going to say much more. I've heard their story now. I know that the local member, Gabrielle Williams, has organised a meeting with yourself, and I've been invited as the ward councillor with our council officers to hear their side of the story, so that'll happen on Friday. So I thank the member for Dandenong in advance for organising that, and that will bring us at the table at the forefront and to get a better understanding. In that way then what we've been advocating on, it will bring it out on the table and see where we go with that. So we'll report on that once we've had that meeting. Last but not least, I read that we've had 14 EPA officers along with our 2 council officers go around our industrial 2 zone in Dandenong, and I understand they've spoken to a few businesses that are probably not doing the right thing. This is welcomed by the community. There's been a lot of angst in the community since the day that I've been elected on this council. They don't want the industrial 2 zone, but this is the next best thing. It says that they've got mobile air monitoring, they're doing blitzers. It says that we're doing, the EPA and CG, the officers will establish a closer operational working relationship. But the biggest concern that the community want, and I've asked, and I do know that it's been listed there, that it's going to happen, community engagement. Can we hear of how that, everything about the investigation, the blitz, and then finally if we can have a bit of what's going to happen with the community engagement, because there's still a lot of people in our community that don't feel safe.
Thank you, Councillor Mehdi. I'll put that question to Mr Bosman, please.
Madam Mayor, thank you through yourself. Councillor Mehdi, everything that you say is true. There's been a lot of activity. There's been a strong working relationship, operational relationship between not just council and the EPA, but other agencies as well, as we go out and investigate the industrial area, in particular the industrial 2 zone, as you have mentioned. It is proposed that the EPA, as the lead agency in this, will do a briefing to councillors probably at the beginning of November. That date's still to be confirmed. And that information will also be taken out to the community as part of a community information session. So all of that is certainly on the books, and in terms of the detail around that, more will be provided at the briefing session to councillors before going out to the community. But a lot of work, as you've indicated, a lot of work is currently on the go at the moment, and it's not just about knocking on doors. There's been some serious follow-up action where compliances or non-compliances have been found. Hopefully we will see a great improvement in the area over the, right from now, but over the years, that there will be a legacy of improvement over the years. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Bosman.
Thank you for that, Mr Bosman. Community engagement, pop-up centres, do you know anything about that, or is that like to come later and we'll probably find out in the November meeting?
Mr Bosman, please.
Madam Mayor, thank you. Councillor Mehdi will find more about we'll probably have an idea as officers before we get to the briefing, because we'll want to make sure that we be part of that. But certainly by the time we get to the briefing session of councillors, a community engagement strategy will have been worked through, and we'll be able to present that to councillors in November.
Thank you,
Madam
Mr.
Mayor.
Bosman.
Thank you for that, Mr. Bosman. I put something up on my Facebook, Madam Mayor, and one gentleman from my community who I know very well has asked the question that I asked for him on behalf of him at the council meeting. I'll read his from the start because I don't like missing things out. So he says, Jim Amedi, this game of cat and mouse has to stop. As our representative councillor, I believe you should consider putting your efforts into securing compensation for us affected residents and push for a rebate to be applied on our rates notice until our safety is secured. So this is about the Industrial 2 zone. Like I've said, the community is still not happy with what's happening, and they still are scared. And the quote from the journal was, the air monitoring station absurdly located in Greaves Reserves is an understatement. I think that might be from Councillor Garrett actually. Years of complaints from residents in neighbouring suburbs and nothing has changed. So that was his response to those quotes. So I'm not sure if you want to comment now or take that on notice, but that is a question from one of my residents.
Thank you, Councillor Mehdi. Mr. Bosman?
Madam Mayor, thank you. It's more of a statement than a question, Councillor. But I think the issues that are raised in what you have just read are the very issues that you yourself have mentioned and which I've responded to. Let us continue to work on this and bring to you in November the results of our investigations, and then, as I say, we'll take that out to the community in a worked through community engagement strategy. As far as relief on rates, etc., I think you and I both know the answer to that.
Thank you, Mr. Bosman.
Thank you, Mr. Bosman. That's all my question.
Thank you, Councillor Mehdi. Deputy Mayor, Councillor Formoso, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I actually have had a really busy couple of weeks, and I will not go through all the events that I did attend, but I will put it in the minutes. So I'll do that this evening, Ms. Roberts. But I do have a couple of quick questions. The one thing that I do want to mention is Saturday night was a huge night. It was the 30-year anniversary of My Room Gala, and it was an incredible event. And I was really touched by the amount of funds that they raised on Saturday evening. Obviously, I'm very touched by this charity due to the fact that they helped us when my son got diagnosed with leukemia last year, and I've seen firsthand the impact that this charity has on families, on research, on equipment, on children's lives, and I'm so grateful that we're halfway through the journey and that there's better hope and prospects for my son, but there's still so many children that we've met along the journey that weren't as fortunate. So these funds that charity like My Room raises are just integral for children's cancer research and to ensure that we have a 100% cure rate, which is their motto, their slogan, and something that they are all truly passionate about and want to achieve. So congratulations to My Room for doing close to, I believe, $1 million raised on Saturday night, and they will have their telethon in September as well, which I'd really like everyone to tune in on. That will be footy finals eve, so the Thursday night before our public holiday, so I'd really urge everyone to jump on board with that one as well. And a big shout out to Margaret Zeta, the CEO, who's a one-person show, and what she's achieved for this charity over the last 8 years has just been remarkable. So congratulations to her and the entire charity and all of the volunteers. I do have a question for the relevant officer. I raised a question last council meeting about Dunvegan Crescent in Dandenong North, and I just went back into my emails, and this is an issue that I've been raising for over a year now. The question wasn't answered. We still don't have a resolution, So if I could please have the relevant officer explain what we're going to do about this issue.
Okay, so I'll direct that to Mr. Kearsley, please.
Thank you. With regards to what council meeting was that asked at? Because I've got the questions from the 14th.
So, Deputy Mayor, Councillor Formoso, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, so it was a question regarding a resident in Dunvegan Crescent, Dandenong North, whose driveway continuously gets blocked by vehicles in the street.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Bosman then. Sorry, Mr. Kearsley. I'll put that question to Mr. Bosman.
Madam Mayor, again, Councillor will, and I'm quite sure that I would have given an answer at the time about putting this on patrols. This week, our second team went live, and that second team is looking at extended hours. So we now have a greater spread of hours, and we have a greater spread geographically as well that we are able to monitor, which takes us into the residential areas too. So hopefully we'll be able to give some relief to the resident that you have mentioned.
Thank you, Mr. Bosman. Deputy Mayor.
Yeah,
Councillor
thanks,
Formoso.
Mr. Bosman. And that's great when the officers do happen to be there, when there happens to be a car there, but we're not going to be able to monitor that, obviously, on a 24/7 basis. So I think some sort of signage, a clearway, something needs to be implemented, because I have been there on several occasions, and it's outrageous that a person cannot come in and out of their own property, often quite a few times a week. So I'd really urge us to look into doing some signage or some line markings on the road, clearway. I don't know anything that's going to enable this resident to come in and out of their own property.
Mr. Bosman.
Madam Mayor, thank you. I will liaise with the traffic engineers in Mr. Kearsley's department and see if there is a signage response that might be appropriate. It's not always the case that signage solves a behavioural problem, but let me have that consultation with the traffic engineers and see if, together with our enforcement initiatives, that we can get some relief in the area. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Bosman. Deputy Mayor, Councillor Formoso.
Thanks, Mr. Bosman. Yeah, I think a no standing sign is probably going to be better than nothing. People don't even realise that that's a driveway, so often are oblivious to the fact that it is. So I think signage or something similar would be good. So thank you. Also, through you, Mayor, if I could ask if we could raise the Stud Road crossing situation once again. It's become quite ridiculous. I drove past the other day only to see a woman pushing her child in a pram, and she had to physically lift the pram to carry it over the barriers, because there's barriers now but still no pedestrian crossing. So if we could please write to our local member and of course the Road Transport Minister that we desperately need this crossing. The residents need it, the people using the basketball stadium need it, crossing the road to get to the bus stop, families, people using the beautiful bike paths that we have there and no way of crossing the road. It's outrageous. I think this is the 7th year now that I've been advocating for this crossing. So if you could please humbly write that letter for me, that'd be great.
Happy to write another letter.
Thank you, and that's all from me.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, Councillor Formoso. Councillor Garrard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A big shout out to the Keysborough Fire Brigade. Deputy Mayor Lana Formoso and I attended their awards night. Outstanding job that these people do. We had all the regional heads there. We had the local member, and we heard about the phenomenal work these people do. We also heard about how frightened they are about the coming fire season and the heat that they're going to experience, and their fears about the community. So when the firemen are worried, it's time to worry. But shout out to them for the extraordinary amount of effort and time they put into that. Madam Mayor, just to follow up on Councillor Mehmedi's point regarding the EPA, whilst Councillor Mehmedi is happy to wait for CBS information, I'm a little less inclined to do that. I am deeply worried that the secrecy around what these odours are and the possible health impact in the 3 years I have been on council, I have been asking, as Councillor Mehmeti has, and as the notice of motion asked in 2020 for a formation of a local task force, and the council has worked tirelessly to get that happening. Finally, the EPA appear to be playing with us, and that's good news. It's good news they're going in with their mobile air quality thing, but that is in no way a sustained solution. It brings no comfort to the residents who do not know what is in these odours. Do they have health impacts or not? I don't expect you to answer that question because the investigations have not been done. My question to you is, what is the status of the task force that Councillor Mehmeti called for in 2020?
Thank you, Councillor Garrard. Mr Bosman, please.
Madam Mayor, thank you. A relatively short and what might seem an easy question, Councillor Garrard, but I'm going to take a bit of time to answer it. As I've mentioned in the past couple of months, officers have sought assistance from the EPA, the Department of Health, Monash Health and the community to establish a task force. So as you know, we've been out there talking to people about the establishment of a task force. However, most of the responses we have received have directed our efforts to the EPA as being the lead in this matter. And this is supported by the Clean Air for All Victorians strategy released by the Minister for Energy, Environment and Climate Action, Lily D'Ambrosio, in October 2022, which clearly sets the EPA as the agency responsible for air quality within Victoria. Through this strategy, the EPA are currently working closely with Council, and yes, they have improved their collaboration with us to improve the air quality situation in the city. And this work must continue, and as such is impacting on the formulation of a task force until the following important steps are completed. Firstly, the EPA and Council compliance officers, as has been mentioned, have undertaken inspections of our most offensive sites over the last few weeks. At these inspections, air quality samples were gathered and a review of current permits to ensure compliance is upheld is also underway. Secondly, the EPA have also undertaken mobile air quality monitoring of the Dandenong South and Keysborough suburbs, measuring any airborne particulates within these areas in the coming months. Well, they've done it and will be continuing to do so. That, as I said, the monitoring is set to continue. And this will assist to determine if there is an actual or perceived air quality issue, what is actually in those findings. And thirdly, the EPA will then report back to councillors and executive on these outcomes of the inspections and the air quality studies. And that's what I'd referred to earlier in responding to Councillor Mehmeti. In the meantime, the day-to-day activities of the combined efforts of Council and the EPA officers undertake to ensure that the air quality is maintained and nuisance industrial sites are held accountable for any impacts that will continue. These activities include regularly investigating over 200 industrial sites within our city and the neighbouring Casey and Kingston councils. So we're not just simply focusing on, the EPA is not just simply focusing on our industrial areas, but in the neighbouring industrial areas as well. And that's as part of the High Risk Waste Sites program. It's a program under the auspices of the EPA. This program looks to ensure the risk of fire and odours are removed or reduced and do not cause off-site impacts. Weekly involvement in the local intelligence network, which raises of concerned sites within our city, so that a collaborative approach with all state agencies to resolving harmful industrial sites are actioned immediately. We'll continue to undertake prosecution and enforcement of any businesses found to be causing a detrimental effect on the amenity of the city. And I can say that a number of businesses have been prosecuted by the EPA in the past 12 months as a result of this or these investigations. More recently identified businesses may similarly be prosecuted in due course, depending on the outcome of current assessments. And then the introduction of 6 new officers for the protection of the local environment, otherwise colloquially known as OPALs, have been added to the EPA team in our region and are actively undertaking investigations to reduce environmental harm. So in conclusion, Councillor Garrard, I think it is comforting to know that whilst the task force is not currently established, there is a multi-agency approach to the issues, and a lot of work is going into protecting the air quality, into measuring the air quality, in addressing the issues that the community and the council officers themselves have raised. And it's through the combined efforts of the EPA, council officers, and a number of the supporting agencies when we go out there. And it is through these efforts that we believe the intent of the establishment of the task force will start being seen pretty soon. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Bosman. Councillor
Thank you,
Garrard.
Mr Bosman, and agree that after 3 years it is terrific that work is being done, but I remain sceptical and concerned, and I'll be still strongly pushing for the task force to be formed, because councillors will be part of that and the community will be part of that, and we know there are local MPs that are happy to be part of that, and I know there are health experts that are happy to be part of that. So if you need support in recommending people to be part of that, I'm happy. I won't ask you to comment any further. Madam Mayor, moving on to another concerning issue, I was deeply concerned to learn that our children in the city of Greater Dandenong have almost the lowest access to libraries than any other LGA in metropolitan Melbourne and regional areas. And that a child in a wealthy suburb such as Stonington has 5 times greater access to libraries than our children. 5 times greater. And the greater concern is that the main reasons people go to libraries are not necessarily for books, but to feel safe, because we have the most digitally disadvantaged residents in all of Melbourne, with the City of Casey, that we have residents with crowded houses and spaces not conducive to study. So we have the highest need and the lowest access, aside from Melton by 1 point, the lowest access. I was deeply worried about this, and I asked the council, what are we doing about redressing the balance of 5 times greater access for a kid up the road than our children?
Thank you, Councillor Garrard. I'll put that to Ms Gillies, please.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Garrard. Our libraries, as you know, are committed to inspiration, knowledge, learning, connection and community, and indeed a very safe location. As you mentioned, trusted and accessible spaces. This is guided by the delivery of our library strategy 2022 to 26. Just referencing the Public Libraries Victoria annual benchmarking report. The current year data isn't released until October, but I'll reference some of the 21-22 data. Greater Dandenong is open an average of 73 hours per week across our 2 branches to enable greater access. This is compared to an average of 51 hours for libraries in Stonington, as you've used them as an example. Similarly, the City of Greater Dandenong has 63,000 members compared to Stonington with 39,000 members overall. Overall, in the 21-22 results, Greater Dandenong was rated 17 out of 48 with 2.1 visits per capita, comparing to Stonington again, which came in at 46 of 48 with only 1.4 visits per capita. Glenelg was the top with 4.8 per capita, and obviously COVID will have played a part in that. Our strategy has 4 key principles: improving health and wellbeing outcomes through literacy, learning and social connection. 2, ensuring we're an accessible and inclusive service that is responsible and reflective of our community. 3, growing our service and reach through our physical, digital and outreach streams. And 4, developing strong and collaborative partnerships to help scale our impact for community. Each of those priorities has a bunch of different themes, including engagement, people, spaces and technology, which you've mentioned. One of the actions within the spaces theme is to expand access to areas of the municipality who have to travel further distances, obviously, to access either Dandenong or Springvale. This will include the development of a library lounge at Keysborough South Community Hub, and we're also exploring library lockers for some of the areas that struggle with travel to the main library centres. This is on top of our existing outreach programs, which these stats don't take into account, which include things like home library services, literacy program in schools and program delivery. So in our instance, we do quite a lot of baby bounce and story time programs within our libraries. They occur at Keysborough and Noble Park, also our kindergartens and maternal child health centres. We've secured 2 years of federal funding through Communities for Children grant with Mission Australia to assist in literacy support in schools, as well as special events throughout the year. And that's on top of our ongoing work that literacy officers do to assist members of the community to find English programs, filling out forms, finding employment, participating in Australian citizenship ceremonies. That's just some of the initiatives. I won't keep going. And in regards to technology, one of the initiatives that we focus on at our existing branches, can I just finish the bit about technology, since you raised it, if that's okay? We actually run quite a few programs, getting people in to help show them how to access programs online, and that's supported through the digital literacy programs for seniors and funding through the state government.
Yes. I think the officer has misinterpreted the question, and I strongly know that our library services are outstanding, and I am fully aware that what you're doing is amazing, and we are not casting any, I'm not casting any aspersions on the quality of our existing libraries. That's not the issue. The issue is we only have that many libraries, and that the outsourced libraries don't provide safe spaces, don't provide education programs in-house, don't provide the safety and the quietness and the atmosphere conducive to study that a physical library does provide. So please don't think that I am saying our library service is substandard. I know that our library service is amazing, and thank you for pointing all of that out, but the issue is not in your realm. It's actually about us and building libraries and having physical spaces. So thank you for all of that information, but the issue remains, and I think it's probably a discussion around funding with the councillors at some point. But thank you for that overview. My next question is around the Keysborough Golf Course. Now that there has been public confirmation that the position of the government is not to rezone the Keysborough Golf Course out of the Green Wedge, does that mean the City of Greater Dandenong Council will not waste further ratepayers' money and time on planning for sports grounds that are conditional on a rezoning that, according to the Minister who has put it in writing, is not going to happen?
Mr Bosman, please.
Madam Mayor, thank you. This answer will be a lot shorter than my previous one, Councillor. The master plan of the proposed South East Sports Hub was developed and drafted entirely by the proponent and involved no expenses or resources of the council, and I can confirm that that currently remains the case. Any future proposals to shift the urban growth boundary or to rezone land or to make the land available to council will be considered at that time as is appropriate, and councillors will be advised. So we are not involved in it at any stage now, and if that changes, we will be in touch with councillors.
Okay, fabulous news. Thank you so much. And my second last question. In response to the Premier's claims that councils are the problem in pushing back against planning applications, MAV have collected data showing that councils are not the problem, that councils approve close to 90% of all applications, and VCAT approve many more. So has the City of Greater Dandenong provided our data to MAV, and if so, what is our rate of approval and the average time frames of approval?
Thank you. Mr Bosman, please.
Madam Mayor, thank you. Councillor, the data, you say, have we provided that data to MAV? That data is available to MAV, as is the data from all councils. And that's partly I suppose what they've used in being able to form the position that they've formed. And this gives me a great opportunity to show just how well this particular council is doing. The City of Greater Dandenong statutory planning team processed 82.4% of planning applications within the 60 statutory days last financial year. That put us, I think, in the top 3 councils in the state of Victoria. And we've been constantly issuing decisions above the 80% mark for the past 3 years. And as I said, that information is readily available to the Municipal Association of Victoria. Of these, 96% of the decisions were approved.
Thank you, Mr Bosman.
Thank you, Mr Bosman. I was so hoping you would take that opportunity. And once again, it shows that council is not the problem. That's my point. My final question is regarding the notice of motion last year regarding forming a biodiversity network. Just wondering where we're at with that formation of the network.
Thank you, Councillor. Mr Keasley, please.
Thank you, Councillor. And through you, Mayor, I can advise that council officers have held several meetings to date with neighbouring councils and officers to explore the opportunity to develop a regional biodiversity network. Whilst these conversations are continuing, the working group have identified several other agencies who are currently aligned with analysing strategic biodiversity values at a regional level. Further discussions are still to be held to determine the most efficient and effective way for council to positively influence biodiversity at a regional level. I'm happy to say that the group are currently preparing an options paper, including those other agencies, and we hope to have that in front of council to consider fairly soon.
Thank you, Mr Keasley. Thank you, Councillor Garrard. Councillor Trong.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. On Sunday of 20th of August, I attend the Kerwang Race Day on the Vietnamese Veteran Days at Collingwood Town Hall. Then on Wednesday, I visit the University Plaza as well. On Sunday, 27th of August, I visit Mr. Châu Văn Kham, a nocturnal Vietnamese. He went back to Vietnam in 2019 to encourage the Vietnamese people stand up for democracy and freedom, and he be jailed from that day. And federal government involved to help him, and he has been released last month, and after 4 years in jail. And I would like to invite all of you and all the community as well, because on 24th of September, Lantern Festival will be organized by VCAs and also SEMVAC together. It's sponsored by many people, like the Dandenong Council, Councillor Richard Lim and myself, and I think very good event, because it starts from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. and at night time as well. And I think all the people, all the children from all communities is welcome, not only Vietnamese.
Thank you, Councillor Trong. Councillor Riley.
Thank you, Mayor. I've just got one question without notice to the Director of Planning regarding the Council's open space acquisition policy. Could I get a report from the Director on the status of that? Understand that there hasn't been any acquisitions within around the last 20 months. The policy as passed by Council suggests that funding from developers' contributions is used to purchase small pocket parks, open space, to combat the lack of open space through increased diversification, which as the way that Victorian government's talking will accelerate sooner rather than later, densification. So could I get a report from the Director on the status of that and the future plan for that, given that that is an ongoing policy that has been passed by Council. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Riley. Mr Bosman, please.
Madam Mayor, thank you to yourself. Councillor O'Reilly, happy to put something together and bring a report back to yourself, for yourself and other councillors. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Bosman. And thank you, Councillor O'Reilly. I guess in the past couple of weeks, I'll just go through a few of the events that I attended with a couple of my fellow Dandenong councillors. I attended the Dandenong Community Safety Forum with Victoria Police. Obviously an opportunity for the community to share any concerns about safety. But one thing that I did note, and were recurring comments about racism occurring in our municipality. So I think the notice of motion that's come back to council with the Racism Not Welcome campaign hopefully will send a stronger message that that racism is not welcome in this municipality. But as our Councillor Garrard has mentioned, it probably won't change a great deal, but we're hoping that many in our municipality will feel safer, because racism is a safety concern. I also attended the annual gathering of the Interfaith Network of the City of Greater Dandenong, and a fantastic opportunity for leaders in our faith and spiritual communities to come together and share a common statement with the City of Greater Dandenong. And that same evening I attended officiated over citizenship ceremonies where over 300 new Australian citizens were provided with their citizenship, which is another fantastic, great number to see become Australians. I've also attended the Noble Park Revitalisation Board meeting, and same evening the Rotary Club of Noble Park and Dingley, their meeting, and was able to speak with them, and it was a bit of a Q&A, which was lovely to be able to connect with the Rotarians in the Noble Park and Dingley. And just last week also visited the Rosewood Downs Primary School Kindergarten with the Minister for Early Childhood Pre-Prep, Ingrid Stitt MP, and the local Member of Parliament for Dandenong, Gabrielle Williams, and the Dandenong North Councillor, Councillor Bob Milkovich as well. It was lovely to see a new space for little kids to be able to engage in early learning. And many of them really shared how much they love Kinder, so it was fantastic. And just on Saturday, I attended the Ukraine Independence Day celebration hosted by the Ukrainian Community School at the Ukrainian Community Centre in Noble Park. It should be a day of celebration for the Ukrainian community, but unfortunately it's still marked by the fear and sadness of the war that is happening in Ukraine. So my thoughts and prayers are with our Ukrainian friends, both in Ukraine and also here in Australia and around the world, really, where they are seeking refuge. And just yesterday I attended the Golden Jubilee Mass for Parish Priest Father Brendan Lane from St Mary's Parish in Dandenong. Father Brendan Lane has been a priest for 50 years, so it's a fantastic celebration. The Mass itself was a wonderful celebration of our community's diversity, with the African community, the Samoan community, Vietnamese community, all engaged and involved in the proceedings of the Mass. It was quite wonderful to celebrate a special occasion with Father Brendan Lane and the St Mary's community. Well, that's all from me. Any questions to table from last meeting, Ms Weatherall?
Yes, Madam Mayor, and they'll be attached to the minutes.
Thank you. Item 7, urgent business. As there is no urgent business, I will move on and close tonight's meeting at 8:47 p.m. Thank you, everyone, and enjoy your night.